What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How was everybody feeling this evening? You guys are joining us for the first show of 2020. We greatly appreciate you guys showing up, showing out every single week. And this week, we actually have a special guest. But before we get started, just want to say thank you guys for the continued support. We're doing big things for 2020. It's going to be a lot of changes here on the show, man. Working with my partners here to try and just bring a different environment, new, fresh ideas to the podcast game. We want to make sure we're bringing you guys new things to keep you guys interested in the show. So just really appreciate you guys' love and support. And hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on your way in. Appreciate you guys. Say hello to everybody in the chat, man. We'd like to keep this chat active and going, man. But we're going to go ahead and just get started here. We got a special guest, like I alluded to early, man. This man has been on the show before, but it's always a good time. I really respect this gentleman, one of the most honest and upright guys in the gaming community on Twitter. If you never heard of him, man, get your ass from out in front of that rock, or up under that rock, I should say, and go check out what this man is doing. But we're going to start with Mr. Boomstick, man. Go ahead and give yourself a shout out. Let everybody know what's going on with you or where they can find you at, brother.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me as the first guest of the year. Obviously, I'm extremely honored to be here with this group of gamers who enjoy talking about gaming, the hobby that we all know and love. And yeah, if you're new to me as a content creator, I've been doing it since my first video went live November 3rd of 2017. It took me about 6 months under my belt of learning how to produce my own content to finally get the gumption to produce my shows. And now Double Barrel Gaming produces 3 live shows weekly with 6+ hours of content. And the shows include Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings, Primetime Gaming on Monday evenings, and on Thursday, we have something that has seemed to really resonate with the community, the Xbox Factor podcast. And it's been going really great. And if you're interested in checking out Double Barrel Gaming, head over to, of course, YouTube and just type in Double Barrel Gaming. You'll see my icon pop up. And if you're interested and you are enjoying the content, I say please hit the like button, but also hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon so you know when my content goes live.
Awesome, man. Glad to have you here once again. This gentleman has been on the show before, but like I said before, amazing human being. Go follow him on Twitter as well. I'm sure that's the easiest way to keep up with whatever he's doing. Guy's busy. Like you said, got a lot of hands in cookie jars. So go follow him on Twitter. I'm sure that's the easiest way to keep up with him. But once again, Boom, appreciate you taking a little bit of time to hang out with us this Saturday, man. So let's move on to the fellas, man. To my compadres here. We're going to start with Stag, man. What's going on with you, brother? Let everybody know where they can find you at, Chief.
I mean, as always, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I will be back to streaming tomorrow. I got my new PC set up. Spent the weekend, I guess it is the weekend, working on getting my Stream Deck rebuilt, my overlays, all that good stuff, figuring out what games I'm going to roll out with the new year. And I'm just excited to be here and start off a new year and hit it fresh. Glad Boom's here. Glad the whole crew's here and ready to go.
Let's get it. And a happy anniversary, by the way. So chat, just go ahead.
Oh yeah, and it's my 17th year anniversary, wedding anniversary today.
So shout out to you and your wife, man. You and your entire family, man. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time out today, even though it's the anniversary, man. We cutting things a little close, so we're gonna try and keep you nice and clean, so we can get.
We moved our dinner reservation just so I could do the show.
All right, so we good. We still got to make sure, wifey, got to get enough time to prepare. You know how that goes. So we're gonna try and get you out of here on time. But appreciate you, man. Take a little time. Centurion, man, let everybody know what's going on. I know you picking things up for the new year on the channel. You said you got a fresh outlook for 2020, man. So let everybody know what's going on with you.
Oh, definitely. Thank you once again for letting me be part of this show, Blam. And it is yet another honor and privilege to be sitting here with Mr. Boomstick XL. This gentleman was one of the role models that I had to decide to get a microphone and kind of join this community and start talking about gaming. So anytime I get to podcast with him is kind of like oh man, I don't know how to describe it. Admiration.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
But no, I definitely got a fire lit under my butt. We're gonna start cranking out content now. Actually, as a matter of fact, as soon as I get off the show tonight, I'm gonna yank down all my Christmas decorations, get my house put back together from all the friends and family we had over for the holidays, and get back on to creating content and having fun, man. That's what I'm really wanting to do with my channel. I'm wanting to just have fun, put it out there, show people the kind of games I play, the interests that I have when it comes to Xbox. I'm a big Xbox fan, but I definitely support all consoles. And this generation that's coming up is going to be one to definitely write home about. It's going to be very interesting to see how things unfold going forward.
Nice. Glad to have you here, man. Appreciate you every single Saturday, man. Centurion, another guy who's busy throughout the week, so go check him out on Twitter as well. Follow him there. Last but not least, Barry Ross, the smooth operator. Whatever you want to call him, the man has 1,000 names, man. But just make sure you call him Fuzz at the end of the day. Let everybody know what's going on with you, Mr. Belvedere.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Glad to be here, man. New year, new stuff coming out later this year, and it's always great to talk about our hobby. Glad to have Boom on here again. Always good to be here with you, Blam, Stag, and Centurion. It's so much fun. So let's get this show started.
Let's get it started, man. Let's get it started. And let's
No
dive.
delay.
Yeah, let's get it started, man. We got a lot to talk about today. So one thing is that you guys are gonna notice right off the bat. I know no poll of the week this week, guys. So I didn't do one this week. Next week for sure, Monday. So follow me on Twitter. Poll of the week will be coming back. It's not something that it's gonna go away anytime soon. Just didn't do one this week. So we starting the show a little bit different. So you got to bear with me. We just gonna jump right into the topics that we have here today. So the first thing we wanted to cover. And once again, these questions are for you, chat. So let us know how you guys feel about everything we're talking about as well. We'd like to keep things going. Make sure, mind you keep the chat as positive as possible. So there's this whole notion, and we've always talked about this, and it's become more prevalent since 2013 with the release of the Xbox One as well as the PS4. This whole idea of winning E3. This whole idea that somebody has to win. There's a loser, there's a winner. We do grades at the end of E3 to see, Nintendo, whoever got the best grades essentially. But going into this year, it's a very, very different feeling around E3 2020 because the new consoles are coming out. Everybody's hitting that reset button. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We can't really base this E3 2020 obviously off what happened in 2013, which I feel like was an outlier. So the reason why I'm saying it is because does Xbox feel like it has to win E3? That whole notion that Xbox has to come out and win E3 to get off to this great start. So I wanted to throw that on you, Boom. So you'll get started with you first. So do you understand? I don't understand, but do you agree with that notion that Xbox has to win E3? Do you feel like that's more of a contrived? That's more of a fan standpoint, saying, "Hey, this is just for us to go back and forth, and just for my personal list," or is that not even the thing that you think about?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. We've talked on numerous shows that I've done about how Microsoft, since December 12th, which was the Game Awards, has completely stolen mind share of the gaming space. Sony does not have one iota of mind share with the community whatsoever. Nothing, like literally nothing, since December 12th. And it's not even a month yet, but in the last 3 weeks, Sony has been non-existent. Now, obviously, we know that CES is Monday, and there's been rumors that Sony's going to be showing something. And I said I think that they almost have to respond. But getting back to E3, the whole win-lose scenario. You know what? The thing is this. What's interesting is that Microsoft more than likely is going to have some sort of a pre-E3 event where they're going to show off the Xbox Series S, as I've donned it. Many people, the younger brother of the Series X that was displayed on the 12th, to get the hardware situation out of the way so that E3 is going to be one giant uppercut after another in regards to games. And I think what's interesting, and I think what's probably going to happen is that we are going to get a chance to see games that we never thought we were ever going to see, and everyone has been clamoring and asking for. I think we're going to get a Fable 4 reveal or a Fable whatever reveal. Okay. I think we're going to get what the initiative is finally working on. I think we're going to get what the secret project that Rare is working on that's not Everwild, because they're supposedly working on something else. I think we're going to get some tidbits of what the Coalition is working on that's not Gears 6. And I think that we're also going to get half of the show of games that are going to be confirmed for launch. And I expect that to have at least two second and third party exclusives, as well as at least maybe 2 to 4 smaller double and single A indie games that are going to releasing into Game Pass. And I think that what they need to show not only is what's coming in the fall to go alongside of the monster that we know that the Xbox Series X is going to be, but to kind of give us a peek behind the curtain of what the future holds for the Xbox.
Okay. No, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you just said about the fact, and I think the one big thing that stands out about what you said, Boom, was that Xbox doesn't normally make moves like the one they made at the Game Awards. That's not
Nope.
something traditionally that we've seen them do. We've asked them to be bold. A lot of people have said, "Oh, Xbox needs to, show their balls and do all of this stuff, and show their money and put all of this stuff and power."
They need to
behind it."
show their what?
Yeah, exactly. Just whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Whatever. Just they need to step up essentially. You know what I'm saying? And like just be the big company that they are. You know what I'm saying? So, put the dollars behind their mouth and do all of these types of things. So the fact that they went out and they showed the Series X, at the Game Awards, I think is showing that they're really aggressive, that it's a confident move in my opinion, saying, hey, we know, what I'm saying, what our console looks like. Here's what it looks like. Now the jokes and the memes and all of those things can get out the way, because all of that shit will be old by the time E3 comes around.
Yeah.
All those jokes and the refrigerator stuff and all of that should be played out by E3. So get that stuff out of your system early, because we're going to be bringing you guys, real hard things, hard games, things that these things are like, you're going to be able to see these things. You're not going to be able to like essentially combat them. You know what I'm saying? Because right now you can talk about all these different GPU and how everything's supposed to be power, but I mean when we show you the games and how they're going to run on this system, that's something you're not going to be able to combat because it's right in front of your eyeballs. So I think that that's something that's really prevalent that they're doing. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Stag. And I know me and you Stag talked about PlayStation not really needing to do anything or really feeling any kind of pressure for Xbox, and I still hold true to that as well. So I want to see if that's still where you're at with the whole, Xbox potentially winning E3. Is that a thing or not?
I'm gonna go with the stance of I don't think any of the major console makers need to win E3. I think my stance on the whole thing is, as gamers, we win when they both fight each other or the three go at it, whatever you want to say. I think Xbox is like Boom was just saying, has been like in everybody's minds and everybody's been talking about them, and not so much PlayStation. I don't really think. I mean, I already feel like Xbox is winning going into the next gen just because of their momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of leading here with is I think we as gamers who love to play on whatever console we like to play on are winning because of their competition and their drive to be better companies for everyone. Maybe Sony's not trying to be better for anything but their profit line. I mean, that's what most companies are doing, but I get a general feeling from Xbox that they actually genuinely care about us. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you don't have any games, you don't have this, you don't have that, but at least they are listening and they're doing the things the gamers want, and they're putting it out there and they're showing it, and there's a lot of transparency in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel like they definitely need to come out and like have a great showing. I feel like E3 2019 they had a great showing. I feel like what they did at not Gamescom, XO 19, and the Game Rewards show was great. Like those are amazing things, and they're coming out swinging. They're not sitting back on their fucking laurels and waiting to respond. They're like, no, it's our time. We're finally putting all of our eggs in the same basket, and we're pushing the narrative that we want, and I think that's good for us as gamers, because we're going to get great games with all the studios that Xbox bought and PlayStation. We're going to get great games. We already get great games out of PlayStation, and we get really good games out of Xbox, but we're going to get like great titles with all the studios that have been acquired from both. So no, I don't think anybody needs to win it. I think as gamers we need to like change that narrative and just say we are winning because of that.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree. I agree with you as well, because like you said, competition, iron sharpens iron, and the more these two companies or three companies essentially, go back and forth and push each other, we're all going to be, we're all going to reap the benefits of that, as gamers. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there too. So let's go ahead and throw this over to Centurion. Ditto to you as far as the question, as far as this whole idea of winning, E3 and that being some type of bar that you can take into the next generation, saying, "Hey, we won E3," whatever the case may be. So how do you feel about that? Just going forward, Centurion.
Well, the fanboy inside me wants to say that obviously Xbox needs to come out and crush it and show their private parts on stage, as somebody just said it. but no, I'll say it right now, to be kind of professional and just kind of down to earth, level headed. I like the way Stagger said it. It does need to be, because competition basically makes us as the consumers win, because obviously if there was only one game console on the market, those guys would be able to charge whatever they want for it. So the competition is able to help control how much we're going to shell out for these new game consoles. It pushes the industry to definitely create better and greater experiences for us, even on the indie scene, because I know Stagger is a big fan of indie games. And even then, some of those guys are even pushing the envelope, creating new things, new ideas for games to enjoy and also build upon, because, another developer can see another developer's idea and build upon that. So definitely it does make it to where we win at E3. One thing, though, I want to point out is I don't like the biasness that comes out at E3, because everybody, for some reason, I'm not gonna deny the fact that everybody, for some reason, always gives PlayStation a pass on certain things. Everybody wants to always act like Xbox drops the ball at E3 or whatever. Well, Xbox has the Fan Fest. They acknowledge their fans. They're very community active. They like to bring their fans in. And, at the end of E3, PlayStation's like, "Hey, that was E3. Later, we're going home." And there's no real Fan Fest. They even canceled their version of Fan Fest this year for PSX. So definitely, when it comes to the whole situation, I really do believe Xbox has to come out strong. They definitely need to show that they've learned from their mistakes. And we're already seeing examples of that. When Gears 5 came out, marketing was everywhere for that game, plus Game Pass. And like I said on GRG last night, we're even seeing them go beyond just that. Even though, what was it? Breakpoint wasn't exactly the greatest game. It wasn't received well. That's on Ubisoft, but still, Microsoft marketed for that game. They even flipped the bill for Lil Wayne to help do the commercial for that. So we could see Microsoft is now kind of doing things completely different. They're marketing games. They're coming out and showing consoles at events that we didn't suspect. They're showing games way in advance with Hellblade 2. I can only imagine what's going to go down between now and E3 and what is going to be shown at E3, which is probably going to blow all our friggin' minds.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing too. That's just seeing the aggressiveness that they've started off this generation with has been really a pleasant surprise for a lot of people, and I just expect that to continue. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Fuzz. What is your opinion based on everything we've already said, and just your overall genuine opinion on this whole Xbox feeling like they need to win E3?
I don't think they need to win E3 other than maybe in the hearts and minds of some of the fanboys out there. But in all honesty, I think they're doing the right things now that kind of, helping them win, mind share as far as the market. I think the big thing now is kind of like what Stagger said earlier. We win as gamers overall when they compete against each other between Sony and Xbox. The more competition, or the harder the competition between the two, the better it is for us as gamers, as far as services, games, options, the whole nine. Whether even pricing in some cases. So, this E3, I think it's going to be more so. It's going to come down to who can wow the crowd and who's going to hold the news story the longest. I guess they will ultimately win, but I don't think Xbox needs to win at this point. It's just a matter of they need to show the X Series X and what it can do and the games that are going to be on it at launch. Yeah. It's the same thing that Sony's going to wind up doing as well. Yeah. And if the whole power narrative, which we could probably get into further later, becomes the hot topic, then it'll just become...
Oh, yeah.
what games are going to be your preference as far as at launch, or what's in the pipeline, from third party and stuff like that will look best on whatever machine. So I don't think they need to win, but for me, they've already won. I'm as soon as pre-orders open, I'm buying.
Just tell me when.
X.
Yeah, pretty much. I think people, and I think one tweet I saw earlier, and this kind of puts that whole topic to bed, in my opinion, is that at the end of the day, we're already bought into the ecosystem. Like at this point, wherever you're at. If you just on playing on Sony, you just playing on Xbox, you're already in the ecosystem. People are gonna buy what they want to buy at this point. That whole idea about winning and that swaying some huge amount of people, that's only to us on Twitter. So if you may really feel like that in your heart of hearts, like, man, this is something that's extremely important. Yeah, I just feel like every company wants to go out and put on a good show. They want to go out, put on a good show, and get good feedback about what they're doing. That's it. It doesn't happen all the time, obviously, because that's how business works. But I believe wholeheartedly that all companies that come out, even the just the devs, the Ubisofts and the EAs, they really just want to go out and put on a good show ultimately. So I think going forward, that's what we're going to be expecting from Sony. I expect no less from Xbox. I don't know about Nintendo. They kind of do their own thing with their directs, but obviously whatever they do is going to be great as well. So let's go ahead and move on from this particular topic, man. Good warm up once again, guys, in the chat. These topics are for you guys as well, so let us know how you guys feel about what we're talking about here. So let's go ahead and jump over to something different. Now, this is a little bit on the opposite end of the spectrum. We don't talk about this a lot. We don't, every now and then we bring up low lights throughout the generation, and we kind of highlight those low lights depending on how we feel or what's going on in the community. But I really, since we're wrapping up this generation, going into a new one, want to talk about the extreme low lights of last generation. So I'm gonna start with you on this one, Boom. And I know I sent you those topics earlier. So what is your biggest flop, essentially, this gen? Now, the flop doesn't necessarily have to be a game, a console, anything specific, just in game in general. So what would be your biggest flop? Like one thing you thought, okay, this was going to be, a game changer and then just failed horribly. What would be your biggest flop so far?
I mean, for me, the game that I think everyone on the panel and the chat will agree with is Fallout 76. Was, being a fan of that company, being a fan of the series for as long as I have,
you're breaking my heart, man.
Yeah, I mean, I
pay for the sub.
I mean, I put 370 hours into Fallout 3, about 280 hours into Fallout New Vegas. Was really looking forward. I didn't put as much time into Fallout 4 as I probably should have. I probably put about maybe 100 hours into it. I enjoyed it, just not as much as 3 and New Vegas. And then when Fallout 76 was announced, I was very excited because I said, wow, there's a potential for this game to go open world where other people are going to be involved. And I thought the multiplayer aspect of being able to traverse the environment of Fallout with your buddies sounded really interesting. Mm-hmm. I was on board day one. I bought the Fallout Collector's Edition that came with the T-51 wearable helmet, which is sitting right above my head. I thought it was amazing. The box was probably the only box bigger that I've ever gotten in the Collector's Edition was the Titanfall 1 box. Oh, nice. For that Collector's Edition.
Because I got it too. I like the fact they made it look like a shipping crate.
They did.
Like you literally ordered the thing from the mail, and you're getting the T50. Like the whole outside of the box was done up, like you're actually getting
dirty. It had like stains on it. Yeah, it looked authentic. And then I put the game in, and I said, "What the H is going on? No NPCs, completely. Listen, we know that if the world gets nuked, it's going to be barren. But my God, that's not what that's not what you're used to when you come into a Fallout game. You're expecting to come across NPCs and come across, interesting stories to go after. I mean, one of the lures and the things that I think will grab any Fallout fan isn't the main story. It's all of the second and third type stories that you find by just searching for gear, right? For searching for, going burnt out building that most people would just run right past because they're on the mission. And you go in there and you find someone that needs their leg or something, and you go and you find their leg and you bring it back and you get a bunch of XP. It's great.
Hey, Boomstick, our mistake was we didn't play the game with the helmet on, so we could barely see what was going on.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I nearly died doing the unboxing and trying to finish the video. I tell that story all the time. I almost died in that helmet because, my God, it was so hot. And that last 3.5 minutes took about over a dozen takes. Obviously I had to get the headset in there. I had to breathe. I had to be able to talk to, say everyone that the video was over. It was hilarious to do. I did about a dozen takes. But yeah, that for me, I think that if you look back at 2019, there were a lot of really terrible games. This was at the top of the list. And I think what's worse was how they tried to fix it by telling you that after you spent the money on the game, you had to pay monthly to play the game. And I think this was a epic fail on every aspect of the game, and I'm just concerned that we may never get another Fallout that the community is going to trust after this travesty.
And Fallout 4 pretty much is a microcosm of Bethesda as a whole at this point.
Yes.
Just the direction that they've gone. So I think that's a whole nother, we could spend a whole nother show just talking about that situation. But I think that just symbolizes the direction that Bethesda as a whole entire studio, outside of them publishing games. Because the games they publish are great, like Doom. The games they actually make have not been as great, how they should be this generation. So I agree in one regard. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Stag, as far as your biggest flop and or disappointment this gen, man, since we're coming into this new one.
Shansu kind of threw out what I was going to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to say the Kinect. It's a toss-up for me, honestly. Yeah. Like you can do Kinect/VR, because the Kinect flopped. We all know it. It never. Developers didn't embrace it as well. It was never like I enjoyed it, but it never felt like it was actually doing what I wanted it to half the time, and the games weren't that great. I mean, there was some cool ones. I can't even remember right now what games I enjoyed playing Kinect, if that says anything, but I did play quite a few of them. The Dance games were pretty cool, or Dance Party or stuff. And my wife and my kids had a lot of fun doing that, and we'd have friends over to do that. And that was fun. But I think on a whole, it was just a flop of a peripheral. Yeah. I probably said that word wrong. But VR, I think, as a whole, look, VR is fun, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be. I mean, now they got the Oculus that's wireless, right? You've got one of those, don't you, Boom? Or
yes, I have the Oculus Quest, and it is amazing.
No, and look, I have PSVR, and I enjoy playing it, but wires suck.
Yes, they do.
And the support hasn't been good enough when it comes to games. There is some fun games, and there is games to play, but I mean, we'll see what that Half-Life game does for VR sales and stuff like that, because obviously it's sold some units for Valve. But I just think Kinect and VR, I think people still overwhelmingly want to either play on their PC or play on their consoles with a keyboard and mouse or a controller. They don't want to wear a headset, and really and they don't want to flail their arms around and jump and run in place. I mean, granted, we just got the Switch Fit game thingy, whatever that is, the Ring Fit, and my wife and kids love that, but that's not, there's no camera involved with that. It's just you're holding a thing and a controller's on your leg, so it's a little bit different, but I still think overwhelmingly gamers don't want to be active while they're gaming. So, and either if that's Kinect or VR, you do kind of have to be active in doing things. They want to just kind of sit and relax and enjoy their games. And I think until we get, I know it's unreasonable because it's probably not going to happen for 100 or 200 years if society lasts that long. And until we get a holodeck and it's full immersion,
I knew you were going to say that.
Until we get that shit, it's not going to catch on, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at. I think the Kinect is the biggest flop of this generation.
Okay. So I guess I'll go. So I mean, this is funny because we don't talk about this anymore at all. But it was so hilarious because I get on this company, I get on this person a lot because I just don't agree with the way they view video games. They got more video game experience in their pinky than I do in my entire body. be it the fact, but that the case may be. But either way, I'm gonna go with the Steam box. I don't know if you guys remember those Steam boxes that were made by multiple different companies. Now, this is Valve's idea of let's see what we can do. Now, providing the fact that they don't provide it, they're sitting on obviously classic games. You know what I'm saying? That they will not do anything with. Shout out Gabe Newell. Fuck him, by the way. I can't stand him. But either way, just that whole idea that hey, let's make a console, or let's try and compete in this console space, but let's make like 6 different versions of these with like 6 different configurations by 6 different companies, and try and let people figure out which one they should purchase. Like that whole idea was ridiculous. You had HP making one, Dell made another one. All these ridiculous different companies, and the controller. Don't you guys remember that controller with the big old dome on it, with the concave dome, the whole touch? It was like touchpad on both. It was not even like any actual buttons or anything. It was all touch. It was ridiculous. Like, don't even get me started with that. So that would have been for me. Now, it's not something that I think any of us realistically we're thinking was going to be a big thing. But ultimately, I think that like for something that Steam could have done, they could have took the resources and put out some goddamn games.
I just looked at that because I'd forgotten all about it. That is one hell of an ugly controller.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And people try to sit up there and say, and this was their idea, that we're going to try and get into this console space, and get the fuck out of here. You could have used them resources on another decent Half-Life. I don't know about this whole VR Half-Life. We'll see what happens with that, or a Portal, whatever. Something, Team Fortress, anything but that. So that would have been mine, essentially. So, Fuzz, let's go ahead and throw this over to you, brother. Biggest disappointment, or for you, biggest flop this generation?
I think a lot of people agree this is the biggest flop. Now, I'm not going to single it out to just one game. I'm going to go with a studio. Although one of the games that a lot of people will say was a flop, it was actually one of my favorite games this gen.
I already know where you're going with this.
I'm going to say BioWare.
That's a strong pick.
Man.
Anthem had all the potential in the world. I mean, look at how well Destiny 2, from 1 to 2, went, and it's had its roller coasters for those that are, loyal to Destiny and stuff like that. Same thing with the Division. From 1 to 2, it's had its roller coaster. I love Division 1. Then it had a lull, and then they brought it back with, some updates. And Division 2 right out of the box was, in my opinion, as good as it could get. And then they've had some, I wouldn't say some missteps, but some things that have confused a few returning players, and then they've kind of walked back some stuff, nerfed some stuff, and I kind of like where it's at now as far as the build diversity on it, but BioWare should have paid attention to all of that. Like how Massive from Ubisoft listened to the community. They even flew out community members to kind of have a round table to kind of discuss stuff. I mean, Destiny, yeah, they had their issues between, vanilla Destiny and the first, major DLC and stuff, but they eventually kind of, I wouldn't say gave in, but they eventually kind of got things going with the DLC and kind of fixed a lot of the things that people were complaining about in it. And BioWare just kind of like stuck their fingers in their ears, closed their eyes, and was like, la, 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 and just didn't pay attention to anything. And then when they launched the game, they still decided that they were going to do that. And it just, it hurt their reputation.
Fair, when it comes to BioWare and Anthem, a lot of that has to do with EA as well. They could take a lot
True.
of blame for that as well. They were the pocketbook essentially behind Anthem. So,
but the whole, I guess, crunch time stuff, and although other developers seem to hold up a little bit better under crunch, but it just seemed like it was either whether it was lack of direction or just confusing messages from EA and where they wanted this game to kind of land. It just seemed like that there
you
was
thought
so
that when
more.
Casey Hudson went back, it was going to be all good.
Oh yeah,
What I'm saying? Like, obviously, he's solely responsible for. The Mass Effect series. So when he went back, everyone was like, "Okay, Casey Hudson's in the building. Let's go."
Yeah,
and that wasn't in fact the case, and that's sad too because I started playing Anthem, and I gotta be honest with you, my God, it's so hard to get into. Like, I'm trying, and I just listen. The one thing, again, I don't mean to cut you off, but the one thing I loved about Destiny. and I know that's the D word. Don't use the D word. You could play that game solo. I want to say between 1 and 2 over 1,000 hours easily, and I'm undercutting that, right? I guess what? I never did a raid, and I had the greatest time just running around and doing public events and just having a good old time, because I'm an old school cat, right? I enjoy the single player portion of gaming. It's still my favorite part of gaming, even though I understand that social media has changed and gaming is more social now. I still like the single player aspect. You can't do that in Anthem.
No,
I mean,
not,
you
and not make any
can,
progress.
but it's not the same.
Yeah, and it's the progress is definitely hindered. The loot, the reward to make you keep coming back is not as strong as Destiny or even Division. I mean, yes, loot drops, but it's like, all right, if I have a rare javelin, why am I getting green drops? If I have a Masterworks javelin, why am I getting rare drops? It's like, okay, I can understand if it's just the red bars that you're blowing through and they're dropping, one level down, but the boss shouldn't drop all purples if you're a Masterworks javelin. But that's a whole nother story. But just they just seem to like miss, I guess, direction between that and Andromeda. Although I like the Andromeda, I'm a Star Trek fan more so than Star Wars. Yeah, I know probably a lot of people are like, what? But when it comes to like Andromeda was kind of like a Star Trek episode, like not Deep Space Nine or anything like that, but one of those types of spin-offs, and that's how it felt. But it was kind of broken in the beginning. It wasn't quite as bad as some of the people made it out to be. Yeah, the facial expressions were a little but that's the case with a lot of games as far as the eyes or just the robot faces or whatever. But it didn't deliver what people were expecting from Mass Effect. So I'm going to say BioWare, they are the epitome of the flop this generation.
Okay. Yeah, I'd even, we just got done talking about this, but before we get to Centurion, I'd even throw Bethesda into that same pile as far as if you want to talk about developers, because once again, I think all of us can agree coming out of the 360 PS3 generation, Bethesda, you talk about Mass Effect, Elder Scrolls, is one of the very few studios those games are regarded as top tier titles, like top tier franchises. And they had two of them like that were consensus top franchises. And how do you fuck all of that up in a generation? Like, we still haven't gotten and obviously the brand new Elder Scrolls is coming out, but I just, like I said before, and we talked about this months ago, if they somehow figure out how to fuck this next Elder Scrolls up, I don't know if it's any recovery for Bethesda at this point. They're gonna have to be, I don't know what they're gonna do if you somehow figure out how to drop the ball. And people have been wanting this next Elder Scrolls for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. Like, so we'll see what happens with him, but I definitely throw him in that pile as well. So let's go ahead and go over to you, Centurion, as far as your biggest disappointment or flop in your opinion this gen.
Is it really easy to to sum it all up to just one? But for me, I'll like kind of I knew what 76 was going to be when they started talking about it. Regretfully, I wanted it to be better than it was, but the biggest flop for me though was kind of like EA in a whole. Anthem kind of falls into that, but for me, before Anthem, before 76, it all started with Star Wars Battlefront 2. That, like, I remember standing in line with my friends, everybody excited. We were all planning to get that game, go home, and just tear it up. And you get to the front of the line, and you get asked that age-old question: would you like to buy a starter pack to help, basically give you an advantage? And you're just like, wait a minute, what? And about that time, I'll admit, I bought the starter pack. I got the Deluxe Trooper Edition, but I knew damn well what was going to happen with that starter pack. I was just like, oh my God, I am scared now. And you get home and you start learning about all the star cards and the math on it and everything. And this is like borderline pay to win, if not pay to win. Yeah. It has like been snuck through pay to win. And EA has now successfully crushed the Star Wars franchise with this whole debacle. I understand now Star Wars Battlefront is a entirely different monster at this point. They fixed a lot of the issues. They got rid of a lot of the pay to win, but it almost feels like the damage has been done because EA is basically they have basically destroyed BioWare. They have, in my opinion, they've almost ruined DICE. They have just done a lot of negativity to great developers, along with, see, that's where my biggest flop this generation is what has happened with these corporate conglomerates ruining developers like Activision with Blizzard, EA with its companies, Bethesda doing following the same suit. It's like everybody's trying to figure ways of nickel and diming people that are already shelling out a lot of money because gaming is expensive in general. And that is just the biggest flop to me on how I hate to say the word greedy, but it is what it is. It's just how greedy a lot of these gaming corporations have got, and they've tried all these asinine ways of making money and putting in, sliding in charges here and microtransactions there. And for me, I'm just glad that they have seen a lot of things like. I will say EA has kind of seen the light a little bit with Plants vs. Zombies, the Battle for Neighborville. There's no microtransactions in it. Everything. Well, as far as I know, you can buy everything purchased in game. So it's good to see microtransactions are slowly losing their glitz and glamour for these companies to start trying to create creative ways for us to spend our money.
Okay, cool. So I mean, those are essentially were our biggest disappointments. Now, once again, guys, we're not saying that these things are condemned, but I mean, at the end of the day, these were our low lights, that we can choose from. There was actually a lot to choose from if you really sit down and think about it. So glad that we were able to come up with a few that we can all agree on for the most part. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. Once again, appreciate you guys showing up here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, hit the bell next to that subscribe button to make sure you guys are notified every time we do a podcast. Appreciate the support. So this next one is actually courtesy of Stag again this week. Stag has been doing his damn thing, contributing here on the Shop Podcast as far as topics, so you guys can thank him for this one. So
I'll probably hate it.
Maybe not, but whatever. We will see, guys. We're damn sure going to talk about it because it's something that I have seen talked about in the community, not as prevalent though. So we're talking about just games that are, I'd say, intentionally difficult. Kind of like the Dark Souls games, Sekiro, games that are just difficult by design, like and on purpose. Now there are some group of people that feel like this, if you don't give gamers an option as far as to play on these different game modes and you make a game intentionally hard, that you may be kind of cutting your legs off here, because you're not giving people an option. And they feel like it's more of what's the word I'm looking for? Less inclusive, inclusive, I guess, for various people that may still want to try the game out because it's super hard. Maybe you're kind of cutting out a certain part of a crowd there. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. Boomstick, I want to get your opinion on that. How do you feel about just games that are intentionally super hard and the fact that there is a group of people that feel like, you're kind of not being as inclusive as you could be by not giving people like difficulty options?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Obviously, I grew up in the days where games were honestly very difficult. Like you take Ghosts and Goblins or Ghouls and Ghosts on the N64. I mean, on the Super NES. Game was beautiful, a lot of fun to play, but hard as balls, right? So. I've always played through them. I never beat Ghosts and Goblins. I got close. I got halfway, but you get back in the days, there really there weren't no save state, or anything like that. So when you lost, and there were a lot of controllers thrown, to say the least. But here's the thing: like the Dark Soul games, I'm terrible at them. I buy them all. It's like I'm a glutton for punishment. Like Sekiro, for instance. Now I bought it. I have it. Bought the collector's edition, as a matter of fact. Game is gorgeous. Deserves Game of the Year. Hard as balls. And it's a game that I didn't put enough time into. Though I think if I would have, I would have gotten far. But you take a game, it has to be for me. I don't know, man. I think it's. Look, these gaming is the game development is expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't get into the headspace of the investors for said company, like for instance From Software. Now, From Software has been making games that are brutally difficult.
Yeah. And
they've kind of stood on their rock where they're not going to give an easy mode or a less inclusive mode to people who just don't understand their games. They're gonna die on this rock, right? And you have to give them complete props for that. But at the same time, if I was someone who invested in the company and wanted to see more sales, I don't know if I would push for that or I wouldn't. I'm not sure, because I don't know how much money it cost to make Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I'm sure it was rather expensive. The game is graphically demanding. It's a beautiful game. It's a very long game, and I don't know if with the advertisement that goes into it, are they going to make their money back on 2 million sales of the game, because it's catering to a niche audience? But I mean, listen, the way you could look at it is like this. I think they're right out there with the type of game it is. Like, for instance, Neo, right? Neo is a masterpiece for the PlayStation 4. My only beef with it is that it stayed for as long as it has stayed as an exclusive to Sony, not because I didn't play it. I put 90 hours into that game. I got to the last boss, and I just could not beat him, and I gave up, and that's fine. But the game is great. I think it would have been greater if it would have been a multi-plat. That's why I think Sekiro did so well, not only critically but financially, because it is a multi-plat. You can get that on the PC, I believe, as well as 2 other consoles. But the hard, brutal difficulty, I think you kind of know that going in, and if it's not your bag, so to speak, then you know to stay away. Though I do know several people that wanted to buy that game and just knew that if they did, they'd be throwing their money away.
Here.
Yep, and that's a dilemma.
There you go.
That is absolutely a dilemma as a consumer. So this is why this topic is actually super interesting. So the one thing that I want to akin this to, Boomstick, and you can probably get this analogy. Me and Stag were talking about this yesterday. I akin those types of games to like the movie. So when we see these nominations for like Academy Awards, you're not seeing Fast and Furious win award.
No,
but Fast and Furious is going to sell. It's guaranteed to give you 150 million domestic, as far as how many tickets and how well it's going to do. But it's not going to win any awards. You don't see Vin Diesel getting any Academy nominations at all. Like, I promise you're never going to see that.
He's getting paid, though.
But he's getting paid. Now, that's kind of like the From Software games. They're critically acclaimed. They win a ton of awards, but they're generally not going to give you 10, 20 million sales. You're not going to get that out of these kind of games because it's not the market that they're aiming for. So it's kind of a give and take, and I completely agree with you on one regard. I mean, you got to kind of know what you're getting into. Go do your research before you decide to make a purchase. You don't want to buy a game that you're going to turn off and take back to the store after an hour. Like, just don't do that. Do your research, figure out what the game consists of, and then go from there. So I agree with you on that point, but it's real tough, Boom. There's some gray area there for sure that we could definitely get into. So, Stag, I wanted to throw this to you. Because once again, this was essentially your baby here, your topic. So I just
thought it would be something good to talk about.
As I know you had a long kind of go back and forth with this on Twitter with a few people. So go ahead, brother.
I'm not going to go real deep into this. I mean, Boom made some great points that I probably would have covered myself. So you akin it to movies and stuff like that. I'm going to also use a movie reference. So foreign films, for instance, I don't have to go learn another fucking language to enjoy a foreign film because there's subtitles. They have made it easier for me to enjoy a foreign film because I can read the words. Going and learning Japanese to enjoy a Japanese flick or a Chinese flick is incredibly difficult, and no one's going to do it. Okay, maybe 3 people. But I like Boom said, it limits sales potentials. I don't think giving a game an easier mode for people who want to play an easier mode and not break 3 controllers, because those bad boys aren't cheap, doesn't take away from their artistic vision. I think a lot of people these days, me included, love to play games on easier settings to just sit back, enjoy the setting. Now, I used to, when I was younger, play all sorts of games on those insane difficulties, hardcore, and all that shit, and I loved it. Getting the Laszlo achievements on fucking Halo, and I just don't have time for that anymore. I don't have time to frustrate myself over and over, dying in the same spot for 3 hours again and again and again. I would have loved to play Sekiro. It looks like an amazing game, and obviously it is, because it won a ton of awards. And definitely, to each their own, as Born Distracted said. But I feel giving the sorry, I'm reading chat.
No.
Giving more gamers access to the game isn't a bad thing, not only for gamers and for those devs and publishers. I mean, yes, they're in the business to make art and make games that they want to make, but are they not only in the business to make money and like make profits and have nice salaries and maybe make another game similar to the one they just made? I mean, if you spend, I'm just going to throw out random numbers that are probably not even close to whatever's, but like if you spend $10 million on a game and you only make $2 million, are you going to be able to make another game that costs $10 million? So at what point does your artistic vision have to come a little bit second to actually making your money back, just breaking even and being profitable?
And I think that goes back to what Boom highlighted. That it's tough because we're not developers. We're not in that headspace. We're not in those board meetings. We're not sitting at the table looking at the finances. So all of this is headcanon, really, at the end of the day. But no, I feel what you're saying.
And I also feel like it's a little bit of them being like, my shit doesn't stink, yours does.
Well, there's that as well.
That's great. I love it.
I fully believe that there is like developer vindication. That I 100% believe that these developers see these tweets, and sometimes they may do shit intentionally. Like, I remember they said this last year. I'm gonna add this shit in just to fuck with them because they said all of these different things. So I believe that does happen from time to time. I don't know how much. Once again, I'm not in the meetings and things like that. So, but I believe that does happen. So, just want to highlight with Stag and Boom mentioned there that it's kind of a difficult question, but we do the best we can here. Centurions, we're gonna throw this over to you, buddy. See what your opinion is about just the difficulty of these games versus like just being inclusive and having all these different modes for people to play.
See, I'm kind of having a mixed bag about this whole thing because I understand the argument of inclusivity. Obviously, people want to be able to enjoy these games. Hell, I would like to play Sekiro, but again, I don't want to end up hating a game just because of because I got a small taste of that in what's it called, Jedi Fallen Order, and I did complete that game. There was times I had to go back and kind of reevaluate my character and continue leveling him up and getting it to where I can have more health packs to actually pull off some of these fights. I am starting to dabble in games like that where you have to be very strategic in how you play at least in how you fight. It's not just hack and slash. You actually have to hack, slash, dodge, roll, and do all this other stuff. So now, the only thing I have to say is that there's one game in particular that I have been beating my head on the wall, debating with my brother pretty much, The Division. A game that is technically able to be played by itself, but by no means, like, you can't really play certain areas of that game by yourself. So that's where I'm wanting to at least ask you, Blam and Fuzzy, you guys play The Division religiously. Would you be happy if they lowered down what they have done to create that game to make it more accessible for people that don't have a huge friends list of people to go do some of these games?
Well, go ahead, Fuzz. I mean, since you're up next anyway, go ahead and take
it. I'm fine with it. Like, but there's, to some extent, like, it's one of those things where, all right, I'll be perfectly upfront. I'm not an elitist when it comes to gaming. I used to be when I was younger. It's like, oh, you got to make sure you don't use cheat codes and all that stuff. Now it's more about just the enjoyment of the game. But I used to complain about the First Division because I couldn't. I mean, yes, I understand incursions are not meant to be done solo. I eventually could do some of them solo, except for like the dragon one or the fire truck one, because you need two people, one to hold the button. But eventually you can get to the point where your end game build is strong enough to do some of that content that you shouldn't be able to do solo. But I'm fine having that ability, but there's tiers. So if the content is able to be done solo, but the reward is limited, so that way if we do meet in the dark zone, I don't want to have to worry about somebody that didn't put as much time and effort into it and then trying to steal stuff from me when I'm trying to just, farm the dark zone or something like that. So as long as it's not one of those things where you can kind of exploit that accessibility, the rewards usually on how the games scale for stuff like that. If you're doing it solo and you're doing the harder areas but on lower difficulty, you're only going to get like purples or something that's not as strong or not as high of a scoring as the stuff where you either needed the whole squad to go through that, or you had to have a high end build to the point where you're pretty much, slaying every elite NPC and stuff like that on your own because, all the builds and reworking and re-rolling that you've done. But I think when it comes to the games where, like, I'm kind of torn too. I think as long as they offer that easy mode, possibly the compromise could be limit the achievement. So if I don't do, what would be a good one? Like Wolfenstein. If I don't do it on the harder difficulty, I'm fine with not getting the achievement. As long as I complete the game, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the gamer score. I'm not really worried about the gamer score, at least at
That's
this
a good
point.
trade-off.
Yeah, I would like to have it.
A lot of games have different difficulty related achievements or trophies as well. So I mean, so you don't get the you don't get the Laszlo achievement or whatever,
Right.
And I feel like Fallen Order also did it right. It wasn't easy mode, basically making it feel like, like you're kind of wussing out. It was called story mode.
I love story modes in games.
Story mode means you're just there for the story.
Yeah. That's a
love that shit.
Let me tell you something. There's no shame in wanting to sit down because listen, you got to remember these games that we're playing now are cinematic experiences. They're basically movies that we are playing, right?
Yeah.
And like a good movie or like a good film that you're going to sit down and watch either by yourself or with your loved one, is that you're going to want to get invested in the character. You're going to want to get invested in the particular situation that they're involved in, the overall, arcing story, the world that they're in. And games like Jedi Fallen Order that offered that is amazing because guess what? Some people will argue, but it's been quite a while since we've gotten a really strong, original, canon Star Wars story.
Absolutely.
And this story was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. And the funny thing about this is that as we kind of cover this in the wrap, could essentially put a bow tie on this here, is that really at the end of the day, guys, all we're saying is that, I think there's a compromise that could be made
for all of us.
For all of us, absolutely. And I agree on both sides of the fence. I don't think anybody, if you're an elitist, I don't think your opinion should be devalued as well as if you're on the other side of the fence.
Can I add on just real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So the funny part is, when I started creating content for YouTube, one of my first videos was talking about how the gentleman who did Cuphead, and it was like an article, I believe, through Kotaku, I forget who, basically stating that it was when Sekiro came out that they have to give an easy mode. Mm-hmm. And the thing that really irked me, that they weren't really more concerned about the fans. They were using the fans as a scapegoat. They were wanting easy modes in gaming journalism because they wanted it to where they didn't have to invest all this time and effort. They're able to just grind out a game and put out a crap review as quickly as they can. Mm-hmm. And
there's different motives, and that's a different motive.
Now, the one argument I could say when it comes to a story mode, especially when it comes to a From Software game, is regardless of all of our skills on a controller and not taking the time to really get that good at a game like that, I look at it more objectively from look at somebody like Graphic God, who is actually limited in the games he can play because of something out of his control. He, if I'm right, Boomstick, doesn't he play on an adaptive controller sometimes?
Yes, he does play on an adaptive controller, and I can tell you this right now. I have seen him beat down people in Mortal Kombat with one hand.
That's it. That's so
I'm not
cool,
talking about just wailing away on the controller. He will beat you down cowboy style.
Yeah, nice.
See, but that's what I'm talking right there. That's the inclusivity that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of people that have physical limitations that don't allow them to operate a controller as well as you need to beat a From Software game. And that's where I stand by. They have a right to these experiences just as much as all of us. And just because we're not that great on a controller, that the funny part is that's by choice. We're not out there practicing or trying to figure out all the ins and outs of actually being able to pull it off. But there's some people out there that are physically limited on being able to do that, and that's where I believe that inclusivity has a place, because I want them to be able to enjoy these titles just as much as I want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I agree with pretty much everything everybody said here today on the show as far as this topic goes. I mean, it's really a tough topic. I mean, I don't think any of us are wrong, any of us are right, really. All of it's really just opinion. And I feel like we've all played enough video games. We've all got enough experience to where it's a lot of validity on both sides of the fence as this goes. So, man, we're going to actually wrap this thing up, man. We're going to try and keep this as close to an hour. I know, Stag, you got to get yourself ready to go, man. Go put on your suit and your cummerbund and get yourself.
I don't put all that shit on. Come on now. I got jeans and tennis shoes and like a nice shirt. That's
Yo,
about as far as this guy goes.
I thought he was kilt kind of individual.
Yeah, we got to go.
Oh, God, no. It's too drafty, bro.
We got to go let him manscape. He got to go get his manscape and get his oils and things ready. Get himself.
Blam, speaking of, remember how you said on New Year's that it was cold and I went to Zoo Lights?
Yeah.
When I was at Zoo Lights, there was a dude walking around in a kilt in that weather.
He's crazy. He's
wow.
He doesn't want any kids. He must not have any kids.
Dude, he was pushing a kid,
He's
man.
done having kids.
Oh yeah, he's done. Yeah, that was a wrap.
He's done.
He just saved on a nice hospital bill by wearing a kilt out in that cold. It's ridiculous. But either way, man, yeah. So it's just we got to get him out of here. But once again, man, we go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. It was an amazing show. We're just gonna go ahead and start with Boom because he is the special guest of the hour, Cincy. And I just want to say thank you, Boom, man. I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot on your plate. Just the fact that I can reach out to this guy anytime and he always responds to me, whether he can come on or not, that just goes to show you that, as great as his channel has gotten, as big as things have gotten, he's still one of the most humble guys in the community, one of the most humble gamers you'll meet on YouTube. So please do me a favor, if you're not following him, subscribe to him. Go follow everything this man is doing. You will not be disappointed at all, I promise you. So Boom, let us know, let everybody know in the chat where they can find you at, where they can get a hold of you.
Well, first of all, thank you for the extremely kind words. That is very kind of you and very true. I am as humble as pie. I don't think that even if I had 1 million subscribers, I'd be less attainable to talk to because I think that we all have to remember that we start at the bottom. Right?
Yeah,
no one starts it in the corner office or the front parking spot or the 6-figure salary. We all have to start from the beginning. I'm very late to the YouTube scene. I'm going to be 50 years old in September, so I'm coming off of a 20+ year career as a police officer, and now I've always been a gamer. I've been gaming since '78, so. Being a part of this community, being welcomed as much as I have been, the least I can do is make myself available to be on other people's shows because if my presence helps someone get if you get 5 new subs because I was on your show, then I did my job as a guest.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think people are supposed to do. We're supposed to help each other, folks. I mean, my God, this world is as horrible as it is, and we're on the brink of the possibility of World War III. I think that we could help each other a little bit better, but that's just me, But listen, I put a significant amount of work, and I was telling PTK prior to going live, I've come to the point where I'm actually writing more than I'm gaming.
Nice.
And it's something that I find myself, like yesterday, I was up till about almost 2 writing Monday night's show. And I could have easily been playing, a Plague's Tale, which I just started, which is an amazing game.
That's
if you didn't play it, my God, play that game. It's incredible. I find myself having a serious responsibility to the fans that I have actually garnered over the last 2 years, and I want to make sure that when you tune into a show, you're like, God damn, that's another good one. Boom. That's the point of it. So yeah, if you want lots of live content, because I don't do the videos anymore because I'd rather talk on the air live. I feel I'm better behind the microphone. If you're interested in lots of live content, with weekly live content, 3 live original shows that will always keep you up on your toes and keep you up to date on what's happening in gaming with no bias. I support everything. I have every console under the sun. You can check out Double Barrel Gaming. Find me on Twitter at Mr. Boomstick XL. I guarantee. I think you're gonna find something you like.
Absolutely. And once again, guys, do me a favor, go check this man out. And I appreciate you, Boom. Your busy schedule, taking a little bit of time out today to come on Shop Podcast. Man's been a guest on here multiple times already, so he's like
Mm-hmm.
family at this point, man. Boom is one of the guys I can always reach out to. He always gets back to me. Always a good guy to get quality information from. So appreciate you, Boom, taking some time out today, man.
Well,
You're
thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
always welcome on the show anytime. Just shoot me a DM, man. You always find a spot here. But we're gonna go ahead and bounce this over to my compadres. We're gonna get to you, Stag, first because I know you got to get ready to go. So Stag, let everybody know what's going on with you, what's going on with the streaming for the new year, things like that.
Just arguing about stupid shit on Twitter and streaming again starting tomorrow, Monday through Friday on Twitch at Staggerilla, 9:15 in the morning Pacific Standard, which is great time slot for no one to show up. But it's all right. I enjoy streaming more than I care about the numbers, so I just like having fun, playing games, talking games, and interacting with the community. So that's thanks for Boom being on the show. It was a great first show of the year.
Congratulations on you. Happy anniversary.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, man. It's been a long, fun road being married to this woman, and I can't wait to enjoy tonight. So on that note, I'll lead it to whoever's next.
All right, appreciate you, Stag. Once again, shout out to wifey. We said happy anniversary as well, man. Appreciate you taking some time out, especially on a day like today. It's very important for you to come on and kind of kick it with us for a little bit of time, man. It's always awesome. So next is gonna be Centurion, man. I know you got some things cooking up for the beginning of the year as well. So let everybody know what's going on with you in that regard, brother.
Oh, definitely getting back down, creating content, have a lot of ideas rolling around in my head. Now I just got to put everything from paper to computer to full-blown concept video. Creating videos is not easy. I can kind of see why Boom, with how many shows he does, it's insane.
It's tough, man.
I'm so glad that I just show up for shows and talk about stuff. I don't got to actually plan them out. Thank you, PTK, for handling that part of it. Because, to sometimes do a video, I've had videos that take like 8-10 hours.
Yes.
To sit there, record, edit, put music in it.
It's tough, man.
It's tough. But in a good way. It's not like, oh my God, I'm breaking my back. Yeah. But anyway,
it's a labor of love. Put it that way.
It's definitely a labor of love. Sit there like it just took me 10 hours to make a 10-minute video. But anyways, if anybody's interested in finding me, you can always find me Xbox Live, Twitter, YouTube at Centurion1307. I also happen to kick it right here with you guys on Saturday on the Shop Podcast. I also do TXR on Sundays and Saltiest Gaming on Thursdays. And I must give a warm shout out to K Mega for having me on GRG last night.
Shout out to K
It was a blast. They had me completely laughing my ass off. It was an absolute fun blast. So definitely shout out to him and the whole cast of GRG. And yeah, man, that's it.
All right, man. Last but not least, man, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. What's going on with you? What you got cooking up for the new year, man? Hopefully we got more content coming. Maybe even a YouTube channel, something maybe for 2020. I don't know. Maybe I'm shooting a little far here, but you never know. Go ahead, Fuzz.
Well, I'm probably going to work with my kids starting up their streaming stuff and things that they want to do online and stuff like that. But yeah, you can usually find me on Twitter, Fuzzy Belvedere or Fuzzy_Belvedere or Xbox Live, Fuzzy Space Belvedere. Usually playing, well, now NASCAR, Heat 4 or Forza or Division or even Borderlands 3 right now. But man, this was an awesome show. Always great to have you on here, Boom.
Thank you, sir. We got to get you back on one of the shows. You got to let me know what works for you. Now that I have a night show, maybe the day ones aren't. I'd love to get everyone that's here, and I've talked to Centurion privately.
I want to definitely be on. I feel bad you've asked me a few
work
times.
on that because getting you guys on is important for me because we want to grow your channels. We will, and if I can help that even a little bit, it makes me. I mean, listen. I mean, you saw the push I did for Noof Nukem, and he finally got his 1,000th sub, and that's nice. Amazing.
Yeah,
Jamie Moran. I carried him on. I like to say I carried him on my back, and I told him that on the on Twitter.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, that's what we're supposed to do with one another. When someone is struggling, we are supposed to, as a community, help them up. That is what it's all about. And if you can't get with that, man, you live in a small hole.
Yeah,
I got to tell you. I mean, it's important to help one another, and all of us here, we're all content creators. Getting that 1,000th sub is so epic.
yeah,
It's
it's
so
crazy.
monumental in your career
Yeah,
that talking about it's giving me goosebumps because I remember when I was struggling to get 50 people to watch one of my shows, and now I've broken records these last couple of days. I've never seen. I had 700 people watching on Thursday.
nice,
Wow.
That
nice,
is
man. That's crazy.
that's insane. It's
Nice, man.
insane to think that many people would, almost nearly 700 people to tune in to the Xbox Factor podcast. But again, this is what we're supposed to do. When someone needs help, man, get out there and help them.
Yeah, and that's what it is about. That's what it is to be a content creator. And that's actually one of the fun parts for being a content creator. I'm not a guy to push numbers, and I never do. A lot of people have come through the Shop Podcast, have been on the Shop Podcast prior to going on to doing bigger and better things, and I don't ever take credit for any of that, which I will never ever do because I believe that was going to happen anyway. Maybe I sped it up a little bit, but you were probably going that direction anyway. Most people. So, but either
Well, I
way,
was trying
man.
to use say
Yeah,
thank you.
no, for real, for real. No, honestly, I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. I was doing this prior to a lot of this stuff happening. There was maybe 2 podcasts as far as Xbox centric ones on YouTube when I started. So, man, this is a big deal seeing the community grow, and I think that's the biggest takeaway for me as a content creator. So, you guys can this is kind of segue right into that. You guys can catch me. PTK Blam here every single Saturday, man, with the fellas on the Shop Podcast, man. We're doing big things for 2020, trying to grow the show. Just essentially guys like Boom, can always get feedback from them how to make things better. So we appreciate you being on, but you guys are the big reason why we do everything we do. You
For the
guys in the
community,
chat for the
yes.
community, it's amazing just to see the feedback that you guys give us every week. So once again, follow me on Twitter. That's where you're gonna find out everything about the podcast, everything we got going on here for the most part. Follow everybody as far as that comes on as a guest, as well as my other panel mates here. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Once again, appreciate you, Boom, for coming on, spending a little bit of time today, man. Same place, same time next week. Gonna reach out, get another guest next week. We're gonna continue to do this thing every week, man. So appreciate the support. Peace out. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, man. We are out of here, everybody. Take it easy.